everyone, and welcome. We hope you are sufficiently loaded up with carbs and caffeine. It's sort of like getting a group of first graders all sugared up before we put them on the bus to go back home in the afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joseph Hochweiler. I'm the superintendent here in the Hendrick Hudson School District, and this is certainly one of our most favorite school board meetings. It actually kicks off what will become a very busy 3.5 weeks of graduation season that ultimately culminates when we graduate around 200 seniors from this high school in a couple Sundays at SUNY Purchase. Today, we are recognizing a number of staff who have committed many, many years, in fact, many, many decades to the service of our children, whether they were classroom teachers, or custodians, or bus drivers, or reading teachers. It really doesn't matter. What we are here to celebrate is the service to our community and service to thousands upon thousands of students whose lives you have touched. Inside the classroom, supporting them on a bus, doing magical things behind the scenes that sometimes no one sees and doesn't oftentimes know how things get done. So thank you for committing a summer evening to this very, very important reception. It's one that we're very, very proud of and very thankful that it has become a tradition of this district for many, many years. I'd like to introduce Laura Nyer. Laura Nyer is our Executive Director for Administrative Support Services, who will be emceeing tonight's ceremony.
Daughter of a retired teacher, life's good for him. But we do want to thank you for your service. You all have spent your life, spent your career coming here day by day. If you have any questions about what a day looks like, please look at Lori and Jen's picture in the program. There's a list of things that they will not be missing at their retirements. I implore you to look at that and read it very carefully. That was their retirement announcement to us officially. We did ask them for a final letter after the fact. But this is a big momentous occasion. Education is a profession that we sometimes, go unnoticed, or people are unaware of the dedication it takes to be in a school, be in a classroom, day by day. We don't always have air conditioning. We don't always have the luxuries that maybe some other people have in other industries. But we have the luxury of getting rewards for working with students and working with colleagues that soon become family and friends. So congratulations to everyone this evening. I'm honored to be here. I'm going to let most of the talking happen to the principals and the administrators who have some direct contact with our staff that are retiring. So I am going to first turn it over to Mr. Mackey to talk about some of our high school staff.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome, congratulations to families and of our retirees, and of course our retirees. This is a very special evening, very emotion-filled evening. It's a culmination of bodies of work that are oh so important, especially these days in the world that we live in, where our students can come and learn from folks that have dedicated their lives to what I feel is one of the last true professions out there, based on the personal stake that we have and what we do. So I have the opportunity to talk about a few folks tonight. I would say I keep it brief, but I like to talk. So the first person I'd like to call up, and I ask, when I'm done speaking, if you could come up, and I believe we have parting gifts for all the retirees, correct? Okay. So the first retiree I want to speak about is Patricia Clark. Where's Pat?
Stand right here so Mr. Mackey can talk about it.
So Patty retired a little earlier this year. She has been someone that has been here at the high school since I began back in 2002. And what I admire most about Patty is her dedication to Hendrick Hudson, graduate, class 79, correct? Not only dedicated student when she was here, but dedicated employee. And she's somebody that I've been able to depend on in her years here to be my idle years out in the hallways and in classrooms. She's somebody that took her job extremely seriously and did it with a level of professionalism and commitment that is really unparalleled. And we are going to miss that commitment and that service to our students. You will be sorely missed, and I thank you so much for all the things that you've done for us. Congratulations. Okay. Our next retiree is Cindy Garrett. Cindy's here, right in the second row there. Come on up, Cindy. And Cindy, too, has been here since I've been, just a few years previous to me arriving. And I've gotten to know Cindy over the years. Cindy is a very quiet, professional teacher who goes about her business. And I usually freestyle, but I needed to kind of gather my thoughts because there were some things I really wanted to hit on with Cindy that are truly important. Teaching is a challenging profession, and within this profession, I believe that special education teachers are some of the hardest working people. Year in and year out, they're asked to adjust and teach in some of the most challenging but rewarding instructional environments you will find in our profession. As a special education teacher at Hendrick Hudson High School, Cindy has met this challenge head on, doing so with respect for and from her students, families, and peers. Cindy is taught in every special education environment you can imagine: small class, co-teach, resource room, closet, this corner, over here, over there. But in addition, she's taught almost in every subject area and has served as an instructional leader, a CSE member, WISE task force member, case manager, coworker, mentor, peer, friend, teacher, the list goes on and on. In the years that I've worked with Cindy, she's distinguished herself as a skilled educator who understands effective small group instruction, as well as the importance of building strong, trusting relationships with her students. I think that's probably your strongest skill, that you really understand that that's so important, and I've watched that over the years. Your positive attitude, constant praise, and nurturing approach has made you a difference maker in the lives of the students you love. And we thank you for that. Thank you, Cindy, for many years of service in the Hendrick Hudson School District, and I wish you the very, very best. I'm going to now speak about Jen Morrissey. Jennifer Morrissey is an art teacher here. So Jen and I have worked together again. Jen was here when I arrived as an art teacher, and I've had a chance to really reflect on my time with Jen and our time together. And I have to say, I will remember with great fondness our discussions, not just about teaching, but about the importance of family, spirituality, just to name a few of the topics that we spent a lot of time talking about, and the effect that that's had on your teaching, my leadership, and I truly appreciate that. Jen, I envy your unwavering commitment to stay true to who you are, no matter what. You'll stay true to those beliefs as a teacher, a daughter, a sister, a friend, and I commend you for your 29 years of service to the district. On a personal note, as I think back, you've challenged me to be a better administrator by asking the tough questions or bucking the status quo, always coming back, no matter how we left off, to speak with me and be very reflective about our conversations, and sometimes discourse. Sometimes we didn't agree. No, but not always. But what I appreciated so much of that, Jen, is that whether it was over after an hour or a day or a week or a month, that you always came back and we had a reflective conversation, and you always closed out whatever we were talking about. And I will always remember that, and I will take that with me as I continue in my journey to retirement. So I really appreciate those discussions. Lastly, we've shared some truly difficult times in our personal lives together as fathers, and we've had many conversations. And you have been a great support to me on a personal note, and I always admire how strongly you hold your family to you in your job and obviously outside. We will miss you. I will miss Mom's fudge. I've been a benefactor of Jen's mom sending tins and tins of fudge. But I have to tell you that family, sense of family, as I said, Jen stayed true to herself. There were many times over the years that Jen said, do you mind if my mom came in? I want her to do this. And she, and I said, absolutely. And Jen's mom has become a really big part of what we've done over the last few years. And that speaks to your dedication, not only as a teacher, but your family. So congratulations. So, real quick story on Christine Gaudagno, and I knew I was going to hit it off with Christine Gaudagno because early on, when I came to have her cousin and I was observing her as a member of our social studies department, she was standing in front of the room instructing and had turned to write on the board, and I happened to view the side of her filing cabinet. And on the side of her filing cabinet was like this life-size poster of Bon Jovi.
Yes! I love you.
That's a visceral
It's on mine
reaction.
too. It's on mine too.
John Bon Jovi, yes.
It's on mine
And I
too.
said, I'm going to like her. I mean, I love John Bon Jovi. And then, after many conversations over the years, I found out that she is a tried and true Jet fan as well, so we commiserate over that. But in all seriousness, Christine holds a very special place in my heart as well. I can talk about her teaching and the impact that she had on the students that have come through her classroom, but I really feel compelled to talk to you directly about how you've impacted me as a leader. You have been a great source of support for me in my leadership. When I came here to Hendrick Hudson, I was a 30-something-year-old nobody, young guy that, Rich Zangrilla used to look at me and say, hey, I got kids over there. Flip his eye over his shoulder and walk by. But you've always been somebody that I can rely on to give me advice, to whether it was asked for or not. You always did so in a respectful manner. You always did so as a mentor, friend, counselor. And I don't think that I could have been as successful as I believe I have been here if it wasn't for some of your efforts. And, it's hard to go to the person that you're supervised by and say, that decision you just made, what do you think? You think maybe you want to go a little this way, a little bit, a little bit. But I truly appreciated it because, like I said about Jen, it offered me an opportunity to be reflective and to really think about things. And I think I can't repay you for that. You are going to move on to a very special time in your life, grandchildren coming, and I want you to, as you leave, I want you to keep going and spend that time with your husband and your Jets and John Bon Jovi when he's on tour, and maybe we'll even catch them on together. But I will miss you tremendously. Thank you. And academic report now, I'm going to do my academic report. Okay. I'll wait.
Thank you, Mr. Mackett. Just before we move on to the next school, I just want, you're all holding these programs in your hand and you're seeing these wonderful gifts that are being given out to our retirees. We changed things up a bit this year with the goal and the theme of relaxation as you receive your gift. But I'd like to thank Fran Guerra for putting together all the hard work regarding she made sure that we had great stories for all of our retirees, and she made sure that we had the best gift possible for all of you. So thank you again, Fran. And so up next, I'd like to call up Mr. Owens, principal of Blue Mountain Middle School.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to congratulate all the retirees from the high school. I had the opportunity, I started my career at Blue Mountain at Hendrick Hudson in the high school, so I got to work with many of you, and I enjoyed all of that, so congratulations to you guys. I've had the opportunity throughout the years, CSE meetings, working with custodian drivers to work with some of the other retirees tonight also, so congratulations to them. Ms. Foley, would you come up, please? Foley, that's her posse from her elementary days. She spent a couple of decades in kindergarten and then finally moved up to middle school. She was just sharing tonight that one of the most fun parts of that was having the kindergartners that she had that many years ago see her in 6th grade and like, hey! So I enjoyed working with her for these last couple of years, and as the union representative for her bargaining unit, I got to work with her on that level as well, and another pleasure, a truly professional colleague to work with, so congratulations. Mr. McGarrett, come up, please. We took the 8th graders to Playland yesterday, and in the movie Big, the shot of the game is on the Playland boardwalk, and I thought of Mr. Bagara because Mr. Bagara really is the character in Big as a middle school teacher. He's a middle schooler in an adult body in middle school. And I mean that in all the most positive ways. You watch middle schoolers get off the bus, and some of them just can't help it. They just put their heads down and they run. And you can say every day, don't run, and they're just like, okay, lean. So when you see a larger blur in the hallway or in the creek or riding his bicycle as the cross-country team circles the property, it's Mr. Bagara. The other thing about Mr. Bagara, like middle school children, he's open to most anything, and he's willing to really throw himself into it. So, I mean, all kinds of things. It's way too many to list, but when the district with the art teachers was doing a sustainability project that had to do with river creatures, Mr. Bagara's classroom was filled with sustainable recycled items formed into creatures of the Hudson River. There's a touch tank in his room for, at one point. He's on to the next project at another. He became certified as a national level certification for teachers, which is very rare. So he had the pleasure of working with, or I had the pleasure of seeing him work with kids in the classroom, but he's also one of those guys, if he's going to coach, he's going to coach. And when he coaches, he makes sure everybody knows that he's coaching, he makes sure everybody knows what he's coaching and how to become part of that team. So I recall one time hearing like a little junior boot camp outside the office window, and what it was the track team, which, because it was Mr. Bagara, there's probably, I don't know, 70, 80 kids under the overhang of Blue Mountain, and they were all doing calisthenics, but they were led by the team captains, because the other thing about Sean is he knows what kids are capable of. So he'll set them up and then just let them go. So here's a captain-run practice with a bunch of middle school kids with this small army of cross-country, track, wrestling, whatever he did. So I just want to recognize him, thank him for his years of service. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if Sean and Sally hang out outside of school ever, but they could, because between the two of them, the most eclectic and powerful interests, and I'm sure at times they overlap. Miss Simon has mushed sled dogs with the Iditarod. She shares those experiences with her children. She has fenced competitively, nationally, and the kids are like, wow, you do that? She knows middle school children as well. She's got them figured out. Again, she knows what they're capable of, so she can bring them to levels you wouldn't believe. So before we started using DBT in the district, I think the first time I heard the word mindfulness was from Ms. Simon, and there's nothing like watching a group of 6th graders all just relax as they do that little bowl that makes that tone and everybody just calms down. I remember her watching her deal with a student that was very dysregulated in the classroom, and she looked at him and she said, "Are you being mindful?" And he stopped and he thought about it, and he's like, "No, stop." And she said, "Whoa, how do we do that?" She has worked with the students that need the most incredible help that's possible, and she's also worked a program that I was very proud of. We had advanced English at the time for a while, and she had those students that were really the top of the top intellectually, and watching 6th graders discuss Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was something to behold. When she does something, again, quite like Mr. Begara, goes all in. She surveys her classroom recently, finds out what their learning styles are physically, and then goes about procuring the necessary items. So when you go to her classroom, there's 4 to 6 kids lying on the ground with little Neat-a-Thons. There's another bunch of students sitting cross-legged with little neat desks, and there's a few more standing up, and then a couple other kids sitting at regular desks. So she did that, figured out what they needed, how they learned best, and then got that for them. She's never stopped her entire career, and I look forward to hearing what she does in her retirement.
I too have seen Sean behind my house riding my neighbor's dogs and test all that. I'm sure I'll still be riding if he wants to. All right, next we are going to bring up Dr. Ruller on behalf of Buchanan Lake Elementary. Unfortunately, Mr. Cohen was unable to attend at the last minute, so he has asked Dr. Ruller to step in for him, and he's doing a wonderful job.
Kind enough to give me remarks from the faculty, as is the tradition at BV. Josh will ask the kids and the teachers to say some kind things about the folks that are leaving. So let's start with Kathy Bertolini. So in the words of your principal, it has been a terrific experience getting to know Kathy as a person and as a teacher these past 8 years. You were an integral part of the dynamic team of Mrs. Eads, Gatto, and Bertolini, Laura, and Carrie. Great classroom to work in. And the children have benefited from your camaraderie and teamwork. Furthermore, your skills when teaching is a big reason why we have seen such growth with our students these past years. You are kind, hardworking, caring, and helpful. You've made a great impact on those who have had the pleasure of knowing you. One of Josh's favorite things to do for these kind and special moments is hearing what students, staff, and family members say about our staff. Here are some thoughts from the faculty and the students about Kathy. She is a caring and happy person always. Mrs. Bertolini helps me read challenging words. She always keeps things organized in our classroom. Mrs. Bertolini helps me in class and even came to my communion. When learning math, I was stuck on a problem and I asked her for help. She fully explained it to me and I knew exactly how to do it. Mrs. Bertolini protects us. Mrs. Bertolini is always good and she helps people and all of the kids. Thank you again, Kathy, and best of luck. Introduce our next retiree. This is my 4th year in the district, and actually the next 2 people. BV was the first school that I visited once I was hired and started to transition into the district. And I think that these 2 people really have made me feel so welcome in that school, no matter what I was trying to do or looking for, I could always count on Jen and Lorianne to somehow help me figure it out. So let's start with Jen Tate. Okay, over the last 8 years, Josh had the privilege of knowing Jen in many different ways. Speech teacher, lunch supervisor, teacher in charge, union representative, grade level leader, CERT member, mentor coordinator, and friend. Jen is a very positive person, empathetic, funny, kind, thoughtful, and always reasonable. Something people may not know about Jen is that she always seems to know when babies are in the building and immediately look to help them, whether the family knows you or not. We truly care about the baby school community and are always thinking of ways to make things better for our students, our staff, and our families. I have thoroughly enjoyed playing cards and board games with you and students as you teach in a delightful manner. It has been a pleasure getting to know you through the years, and Josh has appreciated all of your advice, wanted and unwanted, and your numerous conversations. Here is what your school community has shared about you. Thank you for playing games with us, Mrs. Tate. You are a really good speech teacher. When I have trouble speaking, you always help me. Hashtag, we miss you. Thanks for always being so funny. Thank you for helping us when we were feeling stuck. She's nice, she's funny, she's pretty. I will miss her. Thank you for always being so helpful and welcoming. When we were on the lunch line, you helped turn my mood into a positive one. I love having you in the building. Whenever I see you, you put a smile on my face, and I will miss you. I'd like to thank Jen for always giving up her classroom for the many PT sessions we kept her out for. We all wish you the best in the next chapter of your life. So similarly to Jen, Josh had the privilege of knowing Roy in a variety of ways. Kindergarten and first grade teacher, lunch supervisor, teacher in charge, grade level leader, CERT team member, district representative, carpool buddy, and friend. You are knowledgeable, caring, thoughtful, and have a great sense of humor. We truly care about our school community and always want the best for our students, our staff, and our families. I recently enjoyed our lunch Limo PTA fundraiser experience with 6 of our students. I enjoy seeing your rapport with the students and how quickly you come up with the games just to keep the first and fifth grade kids entertained. It has been a pleasure getting to know you through all the years, and like Jen, you have been someone I can always count on for advice, input, and feedback. Let me share what our school community had being shocked said about you. Thank you for keeping us safe at school. She helps us solve all of our problems. Thank you for always helping the monitors. Thank you for helping Mr. Cohen out. Thank you for that too. Thank you for always being there and for being helpful and always making us laugh. She taught me a lot of lessons to use in life, and she's really funny. My second year in BD was an amazing year because I had the best teacher ever. She was always kind and caring. Whenever someone felt sad, she always came up with a way to make us laugh and feel happy. Thank you for helping me through the hard times in first grade. I will always remember you. I loved being in the play, and I hope you become a mermaid. God
He's dragging it out. He wants us to keep laughing.
He's taking a longer stroll.
Hi.
I didn't have to write things down because, well, one of them didn't tell me until 4:30 I was coming here. So we're going to talk about when I first met Marty. We were in Gettysburg, and Marty was a volunteer parent helping to unload everything for the living history program that was at Blue Mountain how many years ago, Sean began. And I'm watching this man work and work and work and work, and I'm thinking, does he ever stop? And I have to say now, these years later, now that I'm his supervisor, he doesn't stop. He's always looking for something that he can do in the building to help out. He's always looking to help the teachers. He talks in his little bio that he wrote about, being in the cafeteria at lunchtime and opening milk cartons and, wiping up messes or wiping faces. And that's the kind of person Marty is. And whether they're his own children or his own grandchildren, he always gives 110%. He's dedicated to his job. He makes sure that what he does well. And he makes sure that everybody's in a safe situation. He has a lot of concern about when he gets to a stop and says, there's no one here for these kids. And I tell him it's okay, the parents said they can get off, and he's not comfortable with that. And he'll say, yeah, I think I'm going to take it back to Frankie because I don't want to let them off the bus. I started Hank Cussin 25 years ago. 20 years I drove, and for the past 5 years I've been the transportation supervisor. And it's been my privilege and my honor to have him work under me. We become, very friendly with each other. Like I said to, his son and the other people here, I live in the community, so him moving off the ABC courts and moving out to Chapel Hill, he's still, he's still make sure he takes good care of the kids that are here, and he is very dedicated to his job and dedicated to the children of the district. So thank you.
I'd like to bring that one. Bring that. Co-President HHU, let's see the words.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I promise to be short and sweet. It's an honor to congratulate all our retirees tonight, custodians, teacher aides, but especially our teachers, as you embark on your new journey into retirement. Sean, Cindy, Christine, Jennifer, Lorianne, Jen, and Sally. We at the Henry Hudson School District are indeed fortunate to have had your expertise and the privilege of sharing your work ethic, your commitment to our students, our staff, and our schools. You have all left a remarkable legacy behind and one which will remain with us for years to come. You are leaving the HHEA a better place than when you found it, and that will remain a lasting tribute to your professionalism. Remember us fondly, and may the years that lie ahead be filled with laughter, happiness, and good health. Your teaching will forever be treasured. Your contribution to our students can never be measured. Happy retirement.
Well, that concludes our retirement ceremony and reception. I just asked if we could indulge everyone for a few more minutes because our next recognition is very unique, and in fact our first ever recognition for a group of high school kids who will be receiving their New York State seal of biliteracy. So if you could just hang on for a few more minutes. This is a really unique recognition we'd like to share with all of you. This is the largest board meeting we may have had in a real long time. So this is a really special moment. And then we'll take a brief pause and you all can clear out unless you really want to stay for some fun and excitement a little bit later. But I'd like to bring up Dr. Roller to talk a little bit about the seal of biliteracy.
Okay, so this is a very special opportunity. About a year ago when I went to Melissa Golia, Maria Zena, and Jim Madden and said this is an opportunity that we should present for our kids, they were all over it. And it is really due to the dedication by Literacy recognizes students in their senior year of high school who have outstanding achievement in English and another language. Doesn't matter what the language is, and it can be multiple languages. It is affixed to their transcript and their diploma. It is an achievement that colleges are more and more looking for from students because we live in a global society. So we're very proud to be able to put forth the first group of students who actually stepped up and went through the hard work of putting together a portfolio to demonstrate that proficiency. So I'm going to ask the teachers to come on up and introduce the kids. So Maria Zenon, Jessica Downey, Melissa Golia, and Jim Rebosa. Come on.
Good evening, everyone. We'll be short. I know, it's going to be a lengthy night, but we do want to take this time to recognize the students. We just have a few words to say. So we're really honored to be here to recognize our first cohort for the Seal of Ed Literacy here at Henderson High School. The New York State Seal of Ed Literacy recognizes high school students who have attained the highest level of proficiency in listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and one or more languages in addition to English. Earning this seal was no easy feat, and our students had to meet strict guidelines from New York State.
So this all began with the creation of standards, project ideas, guidelines, rubrics, and mentoring of the students. Students then had to compile a portfolio of their best work to showcase to the Seal of Ed Literacy Committee. Students worked with their language teachers, mentors, and English teachers to review their work. The next piece the students completed were their presentations in English and in the target language. Students chose a topic that has influenced them either in the study of language or something that holds meaning to them. They then presented these topics in both English and the target language to the committee and language teachers. As a whole, we were extremely impressed with the work in the portfolios and what was presented by these 9 students. They truly set the standard for the dedication, hard work, diligence, and commitment that goes into studying language. We applaud your success and your understanding of the value and importance of the study of more than one language.
We would like to also thank administration, especially Dr. Roller and Mr. Mikey, who helped us profoundly with this process. Also, we'd like to thank Brewster School District that provided us with the guidance that we needed to begin the implementation.
So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us congratulate our first cohort of graduating seniors with the Seal of Ed Literacy at the Hendrick Hudson High School.
Haley Donovan, English and French.
English and Spanish.
Larissa Bushkin, English and Italian.
Thea Barbalit, English and Italian.
Joseph Dimitento, English and Italian.
Gabriella Manarino, English and Italian.
Supriya Basran, English and Spanish.
Nina Tagliabue, English and Spanish.
Florencia Diaz Molina, Spanish and English. Florencia, with perseverance and passion, completed with excellence all the requirements to successfully graduate from the EML program here at Henry Jackson, and is our only EML student receiving this recognition.
Thank you. I just want to say really quickly, while often as leaders we get accolades, truly the great things that we do in schools are a result of many, many hours of hard work, obviously by our students, but by our staff. This was something that was brought to light by Dr. Roller, and as most good leaders do, they push to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. But really, those 4 people that were up here presenting to their students to spend many, many hours outside of their regular jobs to make sure that these students achieve what they should achieve. And I want to thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
So with that, graduation season has officially begun. We will take a brief moment to not be offended when you hurry up and leave. But as you do, grab some leftovers.
Can I please have a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes. How's that?
That's wonderful. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Can I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Everybody need anything pulled?
Yes.
Yes.
Wait, Barbara, Barbara, 5 pounds. Mary Pat, yeah, I'm just gonna abstain.
I'd like to pull fiscal 5.2, specifically the budget transfer, but we can, I guess, move that all under fiscal.
Do you want an explanation?
Should I ask now?
Yeah.
Maybe Enrique can explain to us, there was a very large transfer, it was like 800,000, which seemed a little bigger than our traditional.
Yes.
Please explain to us what that was about and why we're doing that.
Every year when we budget health insurance, we put the waivers in health insurance, and then when we pay the waivers, we transfer them to the account code of a salary code. So, since I don't know who's going to get waiver, because people in the middle of the year, in November, actually, not the middle of the year, can change if they want to come into the plan or leave the plan. So I put the amount in health insurance. Also, so the board can see that that part is not part of a salary, it's part of the health insurance cost for the district. It's a cost that we have because some employees decide to stay with their spouses in their insurance plan rather than coming into our insurance plan. And because of that, the district gives them some amount of money depending on the union. So that part is really a cost of the health insurance. So I like to show it in the budget in health insurance, and then when it's time to pay it in May, then we make the transfer. So those $800,000 are not salary, but are part of a payment to employees, so it has to be considered salary. So that's when we read the move.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want something pulled, or do you want to just?
No, I'm just,
All right. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay. Then can I please have my motion to approve fiscal 5.2?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Then can I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And that being said, we're now up to audience comments. And I will say, each speaker is encouraged to come and speak before the Board of Education. You must sign your name in with Mrs. Galante. Each speaker is permitted 3 minutes for their comments and must be recognized before they come up and speak to the board. All comments must be directed to the board specifically. The board will listen to comments and input, but will not necessarily debate or discuss those items. Operational matters will be directed to school administration for handling. The board is not permitted to address personnel or individual student matters in open session, so therefore no specific names can be used and no specific instances that occur in the schools can be identified. The board is also limiting repetitive comments in order to give time to others who may wish to speak. That being said, do I have anybody signed up to speak? No, it's fine. Then we can move to the superintendent's report.
I'm going to keep this brief because we've had some celebrations and we're going to receive a couple reports. Just an FYI, this is probably our busiest time of year over the next 3.5 weeks, which culminate with graduation. I just ask everyone to make sure they check the district calendar. A lot of events are taking place. Some events may overlap. We've tried our best not to overlap those events. As this board knows, we've worked tirelessly trying to make sure the end of the year is rigorous and relevant for all kids, and especially at the middle school and the elementary. We've drastically reduced the number of half-days that we've had, and sometimes that has created scheduling conflicts with whether it's moving up ceremonies or 5th grade graduation parties, honor ceremonies. So we have a lot going on in a short period of time, so please make sure everyone checks our district calendar. Earlier this week, some of us in this room were wearing very fashionable helmets as we broke ground on our track and field. If you look at it today, you would see piles of dirt and grass. They have essentially shaved off the top layer of the field. That soil will be moved to one of our lower fields. And over the next few months, you'll see some very aggressive removal of asphalt, as well as the beginning of putting in the drainage system for the field, for the track and field. We have other upgrades that will take place over the summer. Enrique, myself, and Anthony Merlini, our Director of Facilities, are finalizing that list. We have a lot to get to in a short period of time, so we may not be able to get to everything for a number of reasons. One, we have a short window to get there. Two, we have our due diligence to do in terms of hiring contractors and companies to do that work and make sure we review those bids. So over the next few weeks, we'll be identifying the priorities in all 5 schools, as well as the transportation department and district office, and we'll let our community and parents know what to expect and what will be different when their kids come back to school in September. And I will leave my report there so we can move it along.
We will move it along. I would just like to say one thing just very quickly, because it was brought to my attention recently that some members of the community do not feel that they are necessarily welcome to come to a board meeting and comment. And I just want to re-emphasize that when we do have our Board of Education meetings, they are meetings that we have in public, not necessarily with the public. If you do have a problem that you would like resolved, please make sure that you first go to your child's teacher, then to the principal of the particular school your child attends. Then if it still cannot be resolved, you can go to the superintendent, but the last person you do want to go to is a board member, because a board member is your last person that you can appeal your case to. So that being said, we can move to our presentations.
Okay, so we are finishing our academic reports. We entertained and accepted the elementary report last week, or 2 weeks ago rather, and tonight we have our middle school and high school administrative teams to give the board and community a brief overview of their school year so far, some items they're proud of, areas that they're going to continue to work on, and some long-range goals. So according to the results, the middle school won the coin toss, and they will receive the ball first. So Mr. Owens is here to give an overview of the middle school academic report. Board members have received the PowerPoint as well as some background information. So Mr. Owens is here to give an overview.
All right, good evening. Three things are going well. Math and English language arts, academic intervention. We spoke at length about this last year. Brought in an English teacher and a math teacher that were doing, specifically doing this work, gave you a pretty lengthy look at what's taking place. So that continues to occur. There have been some natural consequences to those efforts. So we are looking at designing and implementing ability appropriate classroom instruction. I'll explain more about that, but as we identify these students that are behind, we're trying to do what's right by them in the everyday classrooms as well, and strike a balance between the two. And then finally, a big move, talking about for quite some time in Blue Mountain. Blue Mountain has had a unique science sequence of courses for before I ever got there. The next generation science standards are carefully constructed New York State standards, and we're making some significant changes to the courses of study at Blue Mountain in science. So this is really, it's the same slide, honestly, as last year with a couple updates, but not as many. So basically, we are screening students via iReady, a universal screener K-8. We adopted this practice after Dr. Riller had brought this to the elementary schools. I attend a large number of committee of special education meetings, so we're always trying to figure out which schools are using which data to assess our students. So when iReady came along, we jumped onto that, and we now screen all our students. We look at students performing 1 or 2 grade levels below their cohort, and then they're further screened. This is done individually, so it's possible that somebody doesn't really take the iReady screen particularly seriously on a given day. So then we bring them one-to-one with some faculty members that were trained to do some more in-depth assessment. Then those students, if necessary, are given more in-depth attention. The result this year, we have level literacy intervention. That's the program that we use. It's a scripted reading program. Right now there are 54 students in that program. Math, we started with ELA. Largely this was, we were able to do this a few years ago because we had, with some lower enrollment numbers for our students, we had some staff available. So we used that existing staff to do those LOI classes. Math was, right behind them, but a year later, so we're now doing the same thing, same screening process, same one-to-one assessment, and currently we have 25 students in this level of Tier 3 intervention. What it looks like is everyday instruction with no more than 6 students in the class, so it's very intensive. The programs are designed for that small number of students, and the everyday is to give it to do the program with fidelity. As Mr. Bjornson and Ms. Kelly reported last year, we do have a very good track record of students moving through. They do not languish in there. The teachers do a wonderful job of figuring out what they need, addressing it, and when the students are ready to move on, they certainly do so. Honestly, our biggest challenge, or not a big challenge, but a challenge is to coordinate it, because in the middle school we go by quarters, and if we have a student that's placed out of a level literacy intervention, we can't do it mid-quarter, so we wind up trying to time it at the end of the quarter so they can go back into their unified arts cycle. Next, please. So next year's approach, we're going to try just 7th grade. We're going to try something new and different. We're going to have one cohort, one section of students that are grouped by their math ability. These students are going to be the students that were enrolled in the Tier 3 intervention this year, and the students that who needed to continue with that intervention next year. And then, as I said, a number of students were placed out of the 6th grade math intervention Tier 3 this year, but they're going to be in this program next year as well. Next slide, please. The idea here is that it's 7th grade math standards, no question about it. There's an emphasis on more conceptual understanding. It's sort of a less is more approach. We're definitely doing standards, but it'll dig in there a little more deeply, making sure they understand the basic concepts as opposed to levels of repetitive practice. The idea is to differentiate the instruction or the approach according to student learning styles and their specific gaps in the understanding. Actually, no, just leave it for a second. The idea here, though, is to bridge this gap because we had these kids that we identified as being at risk, and it really was working. They're teachers that aren't their everyday math teacher, and that actually was a plus. We're actually duplicating that on purpose going forward because it changes the dynamic. When you have your own classroom teacher giving you additional help, the student, the parent, the teacher, they want to do that math assignment or that ELA assignment that's due for that class that week. They want to work on that essay or that math homework. That's not what these students need. So by having a separate teacher, it didn't take long for the student and the parents to understand that they are not helping you with the 7th grade math. They are helping you with where you're needed. This class will bridge that gap. This will be 7th grade math for those kids that needed that level of instruction, just got out of it, or are still having it. So that's something new that we're trying next year.
So is this a separate class, or is it their specific math class that they will be?
So this will be their math class. It'll be their 7th grade math class. Some of the students in that class will still have that additional period of Tier 3, and some will not because they have moved through that. But they will still, it'll be appropriate pace and rigor and style of teaching for those students that were, that far behind in their math just a year ago.
So if they're falling behind, are you finding, or are teachers finding that children are delinquent in skill areas, or is it the overall concept itself, or is it a combination of both?
It's a large combination. Mr. Hockwriter suggested that I view the elementary report, and I did. I'm glad I did it after I did this, because I don't know how it would have had me all turned around, which ideas did we do and what did I get from there. But it was great to watch it afterwards. So everything's really starting to mesh now. It's kind of like when I've seen Mr. Mackin talk about graduation rates. He can name the kids by kid and say what the issue was. We're at that point now with these students. Some of them had something not great happen to them in a grade level where they missed a big chunk. Some have a learning disability or have something with math that just isn't clicking, but they're not necessarily classified. This is not a special education program. So it is absolutely all the above, which is why, and if you remember, Mr. Bjornson did a great job. This kid grew this many grade levels in 5 weeks because I'm fantastic, and they said, and this one went backwards. So and they hit walls when they get to something they can do. I recall a few years ago in an IMC meeting with Marcia Bailey, and this person's like, I swear, Marcia, we do fractions.
That was me too.
Because the high school said it to the middle school, and the middle school looks at the elementary school.
When we taught, we definitely
teach like fractions. All right.
You made reference to the kids that are placing out, but they're going back into it in 7th. They place out in 6th grade, but they're going back into it.
So the Tier 3 intervention is an everyday program with that small number of students. All right. So those students, they still were in a 6th grade math class, but they also had a class with 5 kids in it, say, with their math intervention. They moved through that class, but now next year, if you just put them in a regular 7th grade math class, it would be rough. So this helps bridge that gap. So some of the students that are still getting the Tier 3 intervention, and some that have worked their way through it, but they're getting 7th grade math in this case. They're not doing what they did in the intervention, which is fill in the gap.
If you think about it, when we talk about a kid who is puzzling us as teachers, there are steps that they go through with different degrees of support. Mild support, more intensive support, very intensive. So when they come back, they have to climb the ladder. They can't just go from intensive support back to their normal classroom routine. They still need hand-holding to get out of where they were. So this is for those 6th grade students who were in the most intensive support. We see they don't need it, so now they go to the next level of support, which will be the 7th grade class.
So what is placed out?
They placed out Tier 3.
Out of the Tier 3 intervention, which is that small setting with the small number of students.
So when they place out, what are they doing for the math at that point? Are they still in a small group?
They're
So
gonna go-
So in sixth grade, they had both a full class math class and this intervention. They placed that intervention, they still had their sixth grade math class. Next year in seventh grade, we're going to make this unique class for those students so that we can address their needs better.
Is it going to be as much intervention as it was?
No, because
Like,
this
are we
class-
weaning them off this?
Yes, that's
This-
a good way to look at that.
By eighth grade, then
We would hope they'd be in a regular eighth grade
The
math.
tier 3 interventions are not about grade level standards. Tier 3 is whatever you need, however far back we have to go. Okay, it's kind of like the equivalent when you think about it. It might be easier with ELA. If you're still having trouble with decoding and learning your letters, we're going to go back to the point where you figured out your letters before we talk about comprehension. So this is like that. So the seventh grade class we're talking about is seventh grade standards. They're going to be doing seventh grade math.
So can I ask a question? So based on the number of students that are being placed, whether it's English or math, has there been some sort of root cause analysis done? Because, it sounds like maybe we could be catching some things earlier. Is that the issue? You're getting these students in sixth grade, and it seems like a number of them are just not prepared. Has there been an analysis done to find out, can we catch these things earlier? So are we doing something?
Well, that's why I'm glad I watched the presentation, because and it was fascinating. Like, oh, okay, because I was happy to hear too that math AAS teachers in all the elementary schools next year. That's the kind of thing you're talking about. So, your direct question about the root cause analysis as a specific report or study, not per se, that I've done. But we know who these kids are, where they're lacking, and so it is being addressed in the elementary in a variety of levels. You can go from math to ELA, and then of course there is overlap with special education, because so Ms. Shook been talking about the skills classes in the elementary school. I've been to CSEs forever. Historically, Hendrick Hudson had a co-teach program resource room, but that was the most restrictive classes we had for special ed in elementary. So this now is another huge gap filler for the kids that had to wait until they got to amount into have a special class setting for special education students. So it's going up and down. I'd like to see a family circus cartoon of Margaret going from the high school to the elementaries to the middle school to try to keep this all together.
And I want to weigh in and get on the soapbox for a minute, because many years ago we used to be able to do that analysis, and it came from the state assessment. When the state assessment wasn't politicized, when it wasn't put in the newspaper, when it didn't change every year, we would give a state assessment, and within weeks we would get an analysis map. We would be able to turn over to math teachers. Here's where we did very, very well. Here are things where we didn't do well. Be able to drill down by student. Over the course of the politicization of these assessments, we would give the assessments in April and May. We wouldn't get the results until October, November, December, well after kids are already more than halfway through their school year. So what districts have done, and we're one of them, is had to try to find a diagnostic assessment that gives us that data quicker, that is aligned to the state standards, but is not the state assessment. And add to that, the middle school, along with our elementary schools, but still the middle school has the greatest percentage of students who are opting out of the exams. So that exam has become basically statistically insignificant because of test refusal. So a lot of the work that districts have had to do on their own time and on their own dime are to create localized assessments or find diagnostics that give us that ability. We've built that model in the elementary, and now, as you're hearing, it's moving to the middle school.
So it seems like it's somewhere around 70 students. I'm sure there's some duplication of students in both programs. So, maybe it's like 60 altogether. Wouldn't we be able to look at those 60 students and kind of trace back and figure out just for those 60 students, what was the issue? How come they came in and they weren't prepared for these things? And see if there's some sort of trend where you can identify some sort of root cause.
Well, that's what they're doing. That's exactly what John's team has done, is to look back and say, where does the problem originate? Because a lot of times with intervention, John's explanation was perfect. We try to help the kid float through the current course, but we never fix where the real problem sits. So it's like a Band-Aid. So, great, I read my novel and my report is due and I feel really good, but I still don't know how to read those words. The work that we're doing now in intervention, and I would say at the elementary level as well, is this is not why you're here. So your teacher has to help you stay afloat. I have to help you fix where the hole is. Otherwise, we never get out of the fixing business. So we really retargeted the AIS work to say, just what you said, what's the root cause of your deficiency? Because that's where the work has to get done. And the classroom teacher can help you hand in your report on Friday and all of that. But we weren't for a long time getting to the root cause. We were very surface, so kids never really got out of AIS. I will say, John's staff, because I just finished meeting with them for year end, it's remarkable how many kids have moved out of AIS reading. I haven't talked to Mark yet. I was with a reading teacher today at another school, and I don't even think she recognized as she was giving me the information how many kids were out. Because we really targeted that work to where the gap existed instead of worrying about making sure they can read whatever it is the assignment is. So I think the target has shifted and it's paying off for us.
And I think
hard
one of
work
the,
also helps ultimately at our level.
Yes.
Because now you're more prescriptive.
Yep.
So we're able to take all that hard work that they're doing in the middle school and they give us a lot of data now. And it's very helpful. So
but I also think one of the best things that we're doing is reinstating the AIS math.
Yes,
program,
that's huge.
Because I think this way, if we can, target the deficiencies that the children have at an earlier age, and I think you and I know this, and I don't have to say it, but the earlier you provide remediation, the better it is in the long run for the child. Because there's no reason, truly, that 7th grade you're starting any kind of, remediation. It's so much better when it's being done in the earlier grades. So I am just thrilled, I'm sure the rest of the board is as well, that program is being started again. So thank you very much.
No, thank you for letting us do it.
So is it safe to say that, going forward, we will be tracking whether these numbers would actually be increasing
Yes.
over time?
Yes.
Okay. So the overall answer is yes, we're doing it.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Short answer.
All right.
Yes, that's the whole purpose.
That's okay.
Just a statistical
I'll try that answer
question.
next time. Yes, we're doing it.
John, just a statistical question. Will we do, how many times a year do we do iReady for a 6th grader? 3 times, beginning, middle, end?
We were talking before, we might go down to 3 because that last one, if we do too late in the year, they're checked out and you get a false negative.
What have we noticed about like 6th graders coming in? How many, do we have statistics that says how many were performing at 2nd grade level, the 3rd grade level, 5th grade level?
Sure. Yes, I don't have them with me.
We don't have that?
Certainly do, yes. Because that's the triage thing, and it's a
I know.
yeah, it's a balance of existing staff and what the needs we can meet. I mean, so far it's worked out just right. Like there's just enough to give the kids that really need it, and it's been working out. And it's really one of the bright spots is that because they move through it, it keeps opening up spots. And we will identify students. It's a much smaller number, but even later, it's like, oh, this one popped up. Where'd they come from? The other thing is with doing it multiple times with classroom teachers, the teacher's like, yeah, no, that's not your score. You didn't try. Go back and do that one. And it's not one score. That's the problem with the state assessments too. It's one day in the year or 3 days, actually over time, in a terrible environment, and then everything was based upon that data, which was also often very flawed. Now it's 3 times a year, every year for years. So even if somebody slips back, if all of a sudden, not only we're identifying things happened years ago, if something happens now, that'll be one of the earliest flags we might see that they're about the most legit data we have about student performance. Because those classroom grades, they vary based on desire, and relationships, and all sorts of things.
Thank you.
All right, switching gears. So, New York State Science Next Generation Standards. The incoming 6th graders will be taking the first cohort to take the new middle school science examination. It will be given in 8th grade, but it's not an 8th grade test. It's a middle school assessment of the 3 years of science in the middle school. In order to prepare our students for this, we are moving toward next year. So next year's 6th graders, for the next 2 years, so them, 6th and the 7th, and then the cohort behind them, will have a spiral curriculum of the earth and physical science. Largely, a lot of that's what's done in 6th grade currently, if you remember the periodic table and planets and a lot of things like that. So spiraling earth and physical science over 2 years. 8th graders will all experience a full year of next generation life science. Some of those students will be offered the living environment as their version of life science, which is currently what we do. We do it over 2 years, 7th and 8th grade. It will now be 1 year. We will do it with additional lab time. That was always part of the equation. And when you do it typically in a high school, it's with a lab period in addition. So we'll have that lab period offered. And, it was an interesting meeting as we got to that. And it just sort of just happened. And this is very new. And typically the different schools look at each other like, what are you guys doing? I don't know, what are you doing? I'll do it if you do it. Sort of like snow days, I assume. When the BOCES person we work with, when they heard this model, he's like, wow, that works. So he was actually going to share with other districts, this is a nice way to do it with that spiral of the 2 other sciences, and then everybody gets the dose of life science. The students that take the living environment regents will be successful as they always have been in Blue Mountain, so the high school gets the benefit of all these students with that lab science credit, and the other students will have taken a full year of life science, so they'll be poised to take the living environment at the high school in 9th grade if that's how we choose to offer it.
How is the lab period going to work? What will they miss, or will they have to miss something because they're doing the lab period?
Yes. Middle school, almost the entire day is mandated because you have the subject areas, and in all those unified arts classes, they're not electives, they're state mandated. The pressure relief valve in the middle school is that supplement period, which is a structured study hall, so most likely, or it'll be against the physical education class, but some other class might move into supplement. At some point, and this is what happens in the high school, a student that wants to take band and chorus and living environment and accelerated art, we're going to get to that point that the high school struggles with year after year, which is that's lovely, but we can't logistically schedule it, you can't humanly do it. Well, maybe they could do it, but we can't schedule it. So 2 priorities we're working on is we're going to continue to develop and implement curriculum and instructional approaches to address these achievement gaps. So this one class is really a bit of an experiment. It's to see how it goes. If it's a fantastic success, we may choose to duplicate it going forward. We're looking at other ways to do the same for the students. And then the other big priority is to design and implement this 3-year middle school course of study that incorporates the next generation standards and has our students prepared in a few years for the science assessment. So that's basically, it just happened to work out too well. In 3 years we aspire to, so we kind of have no choice, but we're going to transition to this 3-year next-gen based standard curriculum for middle school.
Sorry, just to back up again really quick. So the 8th grade students in 2021 will have the choice of doing the next-gen life science or doing the living environments class?
Yes.
And will that decision be kind of encouraged by their teacher as to what level they think they could work at? Or will the student be directing that? Or how is that determined?
Well, very much, as much information as possible, trying to get families to make the right decisions. So the answer is yes. It'll be a combination of, desire, but also, some realistic assessments of, abilities and so forth.
So currently, every 8th grader is taking the living environment regents, correct?
With the exception of the special class, which is a cohort of less than 15, usually significantly less, and any students, sometimes we have students that move into the district, and because we do it over 2 years, we've had very strong students kill it in 1 year, get all the 7th grade review through the review and do it, but some of those students, if they're not.
But for the most part.
But almost, it's close.
And then that won't be happening anymore.
That won't be happening anymore.
Well, they'll do it, but they'll be in one year. Technically speaking,
No, they
they
won't.
could all have opted in.
Can I speak to just the reason why it's a good idea?
Well, only because then it will go up to Jim and they'll have.
When we changed the living environment over 2 years, many, many moons ago when I first started, we never really came back and reevaluated that move. And one of the major impacts of moving living environment to a 2-year program in the middle school was a lack of physical science being taught it was immediately realized, and Tom Comfrey's here from our science department. He's not here to speak, he's here to listen. He's welcome to speak. But there was a lack of physical science skills as kids came up in 9th and 10th grade. And we knew next gen was eventually coming, there was going to be changes, and so this is something that's a good thing, because kids were really lacking some basic physical science principles because they were doing living environment over 2 years. And it was just something in a reflection of making an instructional move like that. We just never revisited, and we probably should have. So I think this is a great move, because it gives our kids a basis in physical science that they've lacked, and that we've had to make up at the high school. Was that good, Tom?
Anything else?
Yes. So that means they'll have to take some kind of, because to graduate high school, you have to have a science regents. So they'll be taking something, I mean, we offer a ton of stuff, but
But they'll be
at
taking
the
it
high
in the high
school.
school anyway. They just won't get it in they could conceivably get it in middle school, but it's a one-year program, right?
I couldn't quite hear you.
They'll get the living environment, what's currently being offered in 1 year is now, in 2 years rather, is now going to be condensed to 1 year, that an 8th grader that you're comfortable with, whatever, would take. Right. So it's still an option. It's just a question. It's just not going to be as universal. Yeah.
And again, you're getting a next, so the life science in 8th grade will be a next generation standard life science, which will coincide with the new next generation living environment assessment, which will be supposedly different. It's more performance-based and so forth. So those life science students will have had an 8th grade appropriate experience in life science. They'll be poised for success the following year in living environment, because it's life science. So it's going to be more of that, and they should do well there.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, we'll transition to the high school, and Mr. Mackin, and he is what stands between this board meeting and leftovers.
Thank you, good night. Because I haven't eaten a carb in about 45 days. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. We are going to transition, because I have a little video, I think.
Oh, I love
A little video we edited in, so I'm just going to wait till. Ready? Can you go first? Why don't we transition to the first slide first? So 5 initiatives going well. It's like my PowerPoint got skewed a little bit in the transfer of the file. I've been here a long time. I've been here I think September will be 18 years. I love Hendrick Hudson. I think we're in a really good place right now. I think there's not a thing that I thought about putting in this summary or that I left out that I haven't really felt really good about. So instead of 3 initiatives, I took the 5 initiatives that we committed to as a district during our leadership week, and within the report highlighted under each of those categories just some spotlights of things that I think we're doing really well. I think we have a staff that is at a point in their careers on average that they're really feeling it now. They have experience, they have a lot to call upon, and they're willing to take risks, and we're pushing them to take instructional risks, to get out and teaching in front of the classroom, to create high impact learning environments. You'll hear me say that a lot over the coming years, to meet students where they are, and to really get into some more individualized approaches to how we instruct students. And those are just some of the things. Our use of data. You heard Mr. Ellens talk about using data. I mean, we're using the iReady data that they've been sharing over the last couple of years that has been invaluable, not only to Melanie St. Pierre's work as a reading teacher, but even when I'm looking to deal with individual student issues. My daughter wants to be in X. I'm able to really use that data that they have compiled and give Mr. Hochreiter some thoughtful, thoughtful thoughts on whether this student really should be moving someplace. So the use of data has been tremendous, and on. Student empowerment, and you'll see in the video, I think we've become a home to programs that are inclusive, that recognize everyone as an individual sailor here, And in the video that you'll see, some of you may have seen it, this year, Mr. Baker, who I continue to tout as probably, I think, the best AD in the county, really worked hard to bring on a unified sports team. And I think the video that you'll see in 2 minutes really epitomizes what we're doing here, you know, and it's really moving. So I'd like to take 2 minutes. It's about 1 minute and 50 seconds. I'll give you a little narration first. We had our unified game. We were down, I think, by a few points. One of our athletes, Nick Hunn, came down. He received a pass from Joe Fareed, and he drilled a 2-pointer to tie the game. The crowd goes wild. We play defense. We get the ball back. Joe Fareed gets the rebound, runs down the court, looks for his man, Nick Hunn. Nick drills a 3-pointer, and the roof blew off the place. You'll see the student coach come running across. It really speaks to, I think, the essence of what we're trying to do and where we're at, which is a really, really good place. There's us playing defense. Here comes Joe Fareed. Nick Hunn. 3 points. Boom! The whole boy, there's our coach. There's Michael, one of our many. We had more assistant coaches than the Knicks. There's Brad trying not to cry. Okay. Trying to kill the clock here. Stick with me, because this girl almost rips our heart out and sinks a half-court shot. Watch what happens. All of our kids just in the middle. It was one of the most unbelievable experiences ever. So our friend Jake. A lot of our sailor program kids are right in the middle. There's Nick. So again, just a really special moment for our school, and I hope we'll be able to standing tradition. Our 2 priorities that I shared in our presentation, one from last year, we continue the work of 2 former assistant principals on RTI and IST, Mr. Giovinazzi and Mr. Katsaris. These 2, I feel like I'm like in the new Men in Black movie. I'm waiting for them to do something here. These gentlemen have been working really hard to continue the work of Ms. Nyer and Ms. Wilson on RTI and IST, and trying to align it with the work that the elementary school is doing, again, to use data to inform what we're doing in the classroom. Holding everybody accountable, not just students. It's easy to say, how come you didn't do your homework? How come, we have a tendency to hold students highly accountable. As professionals, we need to hold ourselves accountable, and I think that's what these processes do.
It's dead. Sorry.
Okay. The other newer priority is, looking at how we teach and what the environment looks like in the classroom. Are we teaching in rows and desks in lines, and what is that seating like? I often think about evaluation season and when I go into classrooms, and I love evaluating. I hate sitting in those desks for 40 minutes. It's one of the most uncomfortable things to do ever. So I can't imagine what a student feels like in these desks. So we're looking at the environment, but more importantly, we're looking at instruction. And if you read through the report, as I know you did, you'll see some of the very first items that we put in there were, there's a reflection from one of our teachers, Andrea Anderson, talking about her experience going through some professional development, about looking at how she teaches, looking at inserting collaborative tasks into her instruction. These are things that are very scary for teachers that don't necessarily do this. And it's something that they're taking a risk doing, and it's paying off. Andrea and Mario Kaczynski went to BOCES, as I noted in our report, to do a model lesson for the new social studies framework. They did theirs and then watched other districts present their lessons. And what they told me was they looked at each other and said, oh God, we are not doing, I don't know if we're doing this right. And I think it's a classic response. You know, you're going there as a teacher, you see what others are doing, it's not in line, and you immediately think you're doing something wrong. Well, that wasn't the case. The two ladies that represented New York State Education Department tracked our teachers down after and said, what we're doing is exactly what they're looking for, and they want to come back to our school in the fall to use us as a potential exemplar for how the new framework should be taught. That's
so
a credit to their willingness to take a risk and be part of something different. Tom Godfrey is also part of that professional development. And we have another group of students, teachers going through that training this year with support from Margaret, and also the middle school is coming on board. And it's really exciting to see teachers take some real risks in what they're doing and the dividends that are paying off. So thank you for that support. In 3 years, this was the same thing we aspired to, because it's been 3 years and it hasn't been 3 years yet. It's 2 years now. A school with state-of-the-art facilities. You can see that we're well on our way with at least the athletic field. We've been making some changes for safety reasons, but also the work that we're doing around high-impact learning environments. We're looking to work with my budget, the district budget, and trying to start to phase out some old furniture and create more comfortable environments, because it's not always something that's wrong with the teaching, Mr. Rodriguez. It's sometimes something with the student, and maybe they're not comfortable in a chair, or the environment that they're in just doesn't work for them. It creates anxiety. So all these factors, the teaching, the environment, the research shows, contribute to kids having difficulty. So we try to get that environment as right as we can so it can meet all the students' needs. So what you'll see as we start to transition to some of these newer spaces are, classrooms that are not in rows and columns, but they're set up to be group instruction if you need it, but also to create small learning environments throughout the room, so that really targeted instruction can happen when you need to have it. Just some data we always like to share. This is again a report on some of the classes that we offer at the highest level. Last year we had 423 students enrolled in AP classes. In addition, we had another 379 students enrolled in additional college level courses. I think it speaks to the very full offerings that we have here at Henry Hudson, and we've been lucky. We haven't really, with all the budget constraints that we've had, the commitment of the board and also Joe to maintain programs so our kids continue to get into the best schools that are competitive is really, really, really crucial. And then we're still bringing on new classes. Margaret, again, under her leadership and in discussions with me, bringing on AP seminar, AP research to examine a capstone program that College Board is offering. I just got an email from Dr. Rogers that she really wants to transition from Science Research Albany to AP capstone, which has, they run parallel, and they also get that capstone designation and can still get college credit. Project Lead the Way Cybersecurity will come on next year as an offering in our computer science program, so we offer 3 programs, remember. And then Sailor 2, our ABC Sailor program, will expand as well. So some of our students that are transitioning into skills that they need to acquire to be productive, active members outside of school, be able to hold down some employment and do other things. We'll be transitioning some of our older students in a different location within the building. Graduation rate, we've been, for years prior to 2011, we lingered, if you look at old academic reports, we lingered around the 91, 90 to 92, 91, 92. We steadily went up for a number of years, and we're plateauing at 95, which I'm very happy with. I want 100, but as Mr. Owens will tell you, you'll see more of a breakdown there of, on the bottom, the number of students in the cohort, the number of graduates, and then the rate. The last box is always the most important. What's happening with 9 students? They make up that 5%. 9 students, 6 were dropouts. 1 was a GED diploma. So even though they completed a program of study that the district supports, the state doesn't recognize that as graduating high school. And then 2 are still enrolled. So those 2 are still on track to graduate in a 5th year. So those are important. We examine those dropouts every year. It can range from 3. We'd like it to range from nothing to where we are now. This was a high number for us, usually around the 3 to 4. We examine every one of those students. These are students that had significant academic struggles throughout their careers, had challenges outside of school that are overwhelming sometimes and take they kind of our priority, and academics take a back seat. But we have to continue to try to get that number down, and that's what we're committed to doing. That's it. Thank you.
Any questions? I think your summary was extremely comprehensive, and I thank you for that. And I thank everybody for the presentation tonight. I think it was well done and informative, and I think a lot of the questions that we had were answered, and we're very
And we certainly welcome questions.
of all of our students and people that are there teaching them, and administrators that are helping to guide the instruction. So I'd like to thank everybody on behalf of the board.
Thank you.
And not for anything, but we haven't met, I haven't met Nick. Hi, welcome.
So this is-
First year. Can you introduce him to us?
All right, so these are my bodyguards. They go everywhere I go.
Mr. G, we know.
This is Nick Katsaris. He's our newest assistant principal, and this is Anthony Giovinazzi.
We know Anthony.
Brought on last year. I will take credit for not a lot of this report. Most of this report, again, is me asking people for input. We made sure that where there was contributions from folks. Well, your assistant principals, I didn't hear anything. But I did put teachers' contributions in there, so it was a collective effort of everyone. So I just want to make sure credit is given where credit is due. Teachers, again, delivered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
He goes, okay, let's go.
Thank you, Enrique.
Oh, you don't want to stay?
Can I bang the gavel?
Yes, you could. Trust me.
Good night.
Good night.
I don't think we have any committees. Did you?
There was just,
Lisa, come
no, I know. Just so people are aware that
We know you have some. Good.
the safety committee is reviewing the district safety plan currently, and we're making updates and changes to keep it in line with New York State requirements and regulations. So we'll be learning more about that as we go through the summer and look closer at it. The other little report is just I went to the Westchester Putnam School Board Association annual dinner and banquet thing that they had. It was a nice meeting. We were recognizing Lisa Davis, who's retiring. And will be sorely missed. The only little thing coming up on the state agenda as far as legislation goes is they're trying to get past reform for the paid leave for voting mandate. And there's only, right now, only school, they're trying to make it so only school employees who do not have 4 hours off of work while the polls are open are eligible to take up to 3 hours of paid leave to vote in the elections. It's kind of stuck in committee right now, but there's about 11 days left of committee stuff happening, so hopefully they'll be able to reform that. But yeah, if we can support that in any way.
Yeah, and we've also weighed in the Superintendent's Association and the School Boards Association on schools serving as polling places. That is a really big deal. I've worked in other parts of the state, and this is the first part of the state I worked in where basically schools shut down on election day in November because most schools are a polling place. And we have created superintendent's conference days, or we've sort of, we've worked around the election schedule. And there have been some instances more recently, some policies that were passed by the governor that made schools as a polling place maybe not the best place for public voting to take place. And that will also give us a day of instruction back. It will not create a broken up week for students, because typically an election's on a Tuesday. Shortly after you have Veterans Day. We really need uninterrupted time for instruction. So that's another topic. And I just want to mention real quick, Lisa mentioned Lisa Davis. She has been a tremendous behind-the-scenes support for us. It was just a couple of years ago that West Putt hired a very aggressive and legit lobbying group out of Albany. And West Putt, under Lisa's guidance, basically gave that lobbying firm to us to help us with Indian Point activities. So while certainly we are on the phone with our state senator and assemblywoman, we have had the benefit of Lisa's leadership to support us through Indian Point, and she'll be missed, but she has created the expectation that work and support will remain.
She's been wonderful. We're very grateful. Anybody else? Thank you, Lisa. All right, that being said, can I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.